Okay, welcome everybody. We've got the Know Your Numbers webinar. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes or so, just to let a few people filter in this morning. While you're waiting, there's just a couple quick notes on how you can improve, video quality and just make it so that you can hear and see everything great. If you want to try to close out other programs on your computer, it'll work better, as well as trying to use the Google Chrome browser instead of the default Internet Explorer or Safari would probably work best. It'll also work best if you are on a computer or laptop rather than a mobile device. So you should be able to watch this on your mobile device just fine. But if your internet connection is a little slower, it might be a little blurry for you. So just keep that in mind. Like I said, we're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. On the right side of the screen, you will see a chat box. Karen has already added her. We'll add some of everybody's contact information in the chat box in a few minutes. But if you have any questions, you can feel free to add those into the chat. So we'll get started, like I said, in just a couple of minutes. And just to let everybody know, there will be a recorded version available after the webinar as well. So if you want to rewatch this next week or next month, we're going to have that available. So just keep an eye out in your email over the next day or so. We'll send out the link, and it should have the recorded version available for everybody. So we're also going to do a bit of a presentation from Wyatt and Karen, who are going to introduce themselves in just a few minutes. And then afterwards, we'll do a Q&A. So if you do have questions, throw them into the chat. I'll either try to answer them right away or ask Wyatt or Karen to answer them right away, or we'll add them at the end and we'll answer all your questions then. So if you do have questions, go ahead and put them into the chat on the right side of your screen. So once again, we're just going to give a couple of minutes here for people to come on in, and then we'll get started in just a minute then. Welcome to everybody joining. Just to repeat a little bit here, we're going to get started in just a couple of minutes, just waiting for people to filter in. We won't start too late. In the meantime, if you want to try to close out other programs or windows on your browser, that will improve the quality of the webinar that you see. So give that a try while we're waiting here. As well as on the right side, the chat box will give you a spot to ask any questions or anything. I'll either try to answer them right in the chat, or I'll bring them up with our presenters, Wyatt and Karen, as we go. So we will go ahead and get started in just a couple of minutes here. Just want to let a few more people filter in. Probably in about 2 or 3 minutes, we'll go ahead and get started, and we will have a great webinar with Wyatt and Karen, and have everybody learn about how to know your numbers, get more profitable estimating, get estimates out quickly and efficiently. So we've got great info coming up, so stay tuned. Like I said, we'll get started in just a couple minutes, and if you have any questions, feel free to add them into the chat on the right side.
You guys there?
Yep, we're here, Wyatt. We're just going to
Yeah.
get started in a minute here.
Yeah, I just accidentally X'd out. Closed everything out. Didn't know what I missed.
Yep, we're just waiting a minute here to get started. Let a few more people filter in. Okay, don't want to waste people's time here this morning. I'm sure everybody has things to get to today, so we'll go ahead and get started here. Welcome to the webinar. We've got how to know your numbers, create profitable estimates, accurate estimates efficiently, presented by, we're going to have Wyatt Knight and Karen Woodman speaking today, which is going to be great. Should be a lot of awesome info. In case you didn't already know, there will be a recorded version of this webinar after the webinar, so just take a look at your email, and those will be the link will be sent out not long after the webinar later today. And then it'll always be available on our YouTube channel and our website. On the right side, you've got the chat box, so feel free to ask any questions as we go. We'll be more than happy to answer questions. We'll try to answer the questions as we go, and then if something that makes more sense to save to the end, I'll save that for the Q&A. So we will have a little bit of a Q&A at the end when Wyatt and Karen are done. And without much further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. Wyatt, I'm going to pass it over to you if you want to.
Yeah, I'll just jump over and grab the screen here. And there we go. Get the slide deck going here. Just 1 second. Perfect. That look okay?
Yep, that looks good.
Awesome, awesome. Well, hey everybody, thanks for the introduction there, Jack. Appreciate it. Always enjoy doing these webinars. Today, again, this is Wyatt Knight with TBSA, the Business Success Agency. And today we're bringing Karen Woodman onto the webinar because what we're doing today really comes down to a lot of numbers, obviously, hence the title. And Karen and I work together. She is a QuickBooks certified QuickBooks expert, and she works with a lot of my clients to help them with their accounting and bookkeeping and getting their QuickBooks files set up. And it's kind of a seamless partnership between her and I, and we're going to go into that more details. But say hello real quick, Karen, and tell everybody a little bit about yourself, because I'm sure I didn't do a very good job there.
Oh, you did a great job. Hi, obviously Karen Woodman. I just have to say that if I get to participate in speaking about QuickBooks or anything financially related, I am actually kind of excited about that. So I currently serve on the Intuit's Accountant and Customer Advisory Council out of California, which allows me to be the voice of other accountants and their clients with Intuit, who owns QuickBooks, and participate in product change or making the product better. And, you know, we have my firm does outsource accounting services, anything but tax returns, and we help people connect applications with QuickBooks, work in the ecosystem, and that's it. Just, you know, QuickBooks all day long. I love it.
You're very good at it and very passionate about it too. It's funny, Karen and I will get on the phone and we'll have like a half hour, an hour to tackle a project or whatever it is that we're working on, and we'll end up talking for about an hour and a half, 2 hours before we'll ever get to that, because you can do that pretty easily when you're both passionate about your industry and what you do. So Karen's a lot of
Yeah.
fun to work with, and she's also really, I really enjoy working with her, and my clients get a lot of value from her. So
Oh, thanks.
it's a good
Well,
good.
you know what? We really help people, I guess, is what I can tell others. You know, there's so many people out there that just need help in understanding what their numbers should look like, how their setup should be in QuickBooks or Clear Estimates or other third-party applications, and that's just we really help bring all of that together. So.
Well, without further ado, let's dive in and just interject anytime you might have to correct me or add something to it, Karen. All right. So again, you guys, the webinar, Knowing Your Numbers, that's when we're talking about estimating, talking about project management, just about anything that has to do with your construction industry, you've got numbers. But today, we're really going to focus on kind of the start to finish, and we're just going to kind of do the higher, a 30,000 foot view of all of this. But we're hoping to maybe catch some attention and hopefully intrigue you guys to dig into this a little deeper because of the importance that it basically has to your business, and it can make or break a business. So some of the stuff we're going to cover today, we're going to talk about some different estimating methods, and just real briefly, I'm going to give you guys a few, recommended processes and procedures that both myself and my clients have found to work pretty well. I'm going to discuss labor burden and how you can calculate your fully burdened labor. And if you're familiar with that, hopefully we'll dive into that a little bit deeper as well. And we're going to go into overhead and how you know what to mark up your estimates, and that's by knowing what your overhead expenses are. And if you don't know how to do that, you can't properly mark your estimates up, to achieve the profitability that you guys desire. So we'll talk briefly about sequential estimating. It's basically just a format that just is a little easier, makes more sense for not only you, but it's building your estimate just like you build the project. And I'm sure most of you guys do that already. So templates, assemblies, and systems. The power of these things that's built into some of the tools we're going to discuss today. We're going to go into that a little bit, and the benefits of unit pricing and how you can work with your trade partners to basically save everybody time and move projects to contract quicker. Beyond that, understanding how to properly utilize a database, and we'll go into that a little bit. Clear Estimates has the Remodel database, and it's very, very robust, and it's very very useful if you know how to use it, but it can be intimidating as well. And then really the main thing that kind of ties all this together is cost codes and how to use them, and to do job costs or tracking job costs, and then all the way through from the estimate to project management right through to the accounting end of it. And we'll just touch on that a little bit because we're not going to have a lot of time, but we are going to go into this stuff a little bit deeper later. And then we're going to close it out with the different technology, the software that you can use, and I'm assuming some of you guys are already using some of this stuff. And then how you can basically partner to accelerate your growth, and with either these software companies, technology, and or professional partners such as Karen or I. So moving in, for some of you guys, I'm sure you guys have been on the webinars before and you're somewhat familiar with myself. Karen, this is the first time Karen and I have done the webinar with Clear Estimates together, but Karen does this stuff all over the country, so she's highly qualified, and you guys are really going to enjoy her. But to just talk a little bit about kind of what you're looking at here, and a design, build, remodel company basically is made up of 10 key components. And I always show this because I feel and have found with my clients have found that these are the 10 key things that make up your construction company. And all the way through, from, kind of excluding marketing design and today, but moving right into estimating and then production and talking about financial, and we're really going to touch on those. But this whole logo and everything was created pretty much out of necessity because of working with clients and seeing their needs and their pain points. And this whole brand is Design, Build, Remodel University, and it's becoming a resource library. Karen and I are actually collaborating on things and creating accounting and financial courses with using QuickBooks and estimating tools such as ClearEstimate and Buildertrend and into QuickBooks Online. And we're pretty excited about it. We got our work cut out for us, but we're looking forward to it, and I know you guys are all going to enjoy it. Moving on. I'm willing to bet that this is probably familiar for most of you guys on the webinar today. And I know for me, when I was a small business and just had a few employees, that was pretty much me every day, wearing all those hats, juggling everything, trying to get it all done, and it was a struggle, and I enjoyed it, and I had a good time, and I did a pretty good job at it most of the time. But the things that I learned was that if you create a system for the process, the way you run your business, yes, it takes a little bit of investment of time and money initially, but the value and the return on your time and investment is tenfold, and then you're going to kind of see a little bit of that today. So it's tough when you're getting pulled in every direction. So, as I, grew my company out, this is just a little quick snapshot of an organizational chart. You can kind of see all the different color codes of the different divisions: production, administrative, design, sales, estimating, and so on. And the reason I really show that is because we're really going to get into labor burden, and that's one of the top reason why small construction companies and most construction companies lose money is labor. It's in their labor. It's their labor costs and not knowing the numbers and so on. So this you can see, I mean, if you've just got one or two guys working with you, you've got a crew, maybe two crews, it's easier to control. But as you grow, those numbers can get out of control really fast if you're not off by just a little bit. So we're going to dig into that deeper. But before I get started on the bulk of the content today, I did a little bit of research and pulled what you're seeing up here. And this is basically, if you're wanting to achieve your desired success, you kind of got to look towards what are your financial benchmarks, and when it comes to gauging the health of your business, knowing the importance and having and tracking your company's like KPIs, your key performance indicators, you've got to have a standard. You got to have a benchmark to set this. And so these numbers here, what you're seeing, these are basically, they're based on the nation's top remodeling companies, and this data, right, what you're seeing here was pulled from Remodeling Magazine. They did a survey on their Big 50. And don't think that these companies are out of the picture for you, because many of the companies were less than $1 million. I think some of them were down in 600,000 gross revenues. Some of them were up above 10 million. But the average of all those companies, they were achieving a 65%, cost of goods sold, a little over 24% in overhead expenses, and 35% gross profit, and ultimately 11% net profit. Those are decent numbers. I always, when I talk to clients, I always say shoot for 10% net profit, and that's after paying an owner's salary of 8%. But having these numbers, and then kind of getting back into the whole labor burden side of it, before you go out and just start hiring employees, you want to make sure that the employees you have are performing. And this is a pretty good indicator. It fluctuates a little bit, but you can see there, this is a little bit old data, but in 2012, the revenue per employee was $254,000. That's pretty decent. And I know I have a few clients that have less than half of that, and it's a bit of a struggle because they need the help to do the jobs, but they need to adjust their markup and their bidding and estimating process to really cover the cost of that because they're not really making the profit that they need to be. So again, moving on, if anybody wants any more information on this, it's pretty readily available online, but these are just a benchmark. Again, it's just something to kind of, set your goals against if you want, but there is no one size fits all. There's no cookie cutter approach to this, markup and overhead expenses and everything. It's unique to each company. So whatever works best for you is what fits your company. But this is on average with the top 25%. So jumping right into the content here, I'm going to try to speed along because we do have a lot to cover today. But one of the things, talking about estimating methods, I can remember when I used to pretty much do everything on a yellow legal pad. I'd have my columns of labor, material, subs, and markup. And I'd go down and I'd line out my, the concrete, the framing, the insulation, the drywall, and I just line that all out and pretty much, was using the WAG approach. And I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with that, but if you aren't, look it up. It's definitely not something anybody wants to be doing. But moving away from these types of processes, and I still have clients on a regular basis that they're adapting new technology and new methods and systems, but they need to get things done, and they end up reverting back to their old methods because of timing, and that's tough because you need to, like I said before, you need to invest the time to build your systems because the payoff is worth it in the end. But the long and short of it is it's redundancy. You're doing things over and over again. And what we're going to talk about today, the systems and templates and, speeding up your workflow. You can accomplish that with doing, using spreadsheets, but a simple software, very inexpensive software such as Clear Estimates, it just adds so much value to your business. And it's really, there's not much of a learning curve there. And if you do struggle, reach out to Jack. He's here to help too. So, and moving on from here, this is a pretty hot topic, talking about labor burden. And most of the guys I talk to don't really know exactly if they're doing it correctly or how to do it or what to do. And this is just a little chart here that you can use as an example if you want. But it's not, when you're calculating labor burden, it's not just, okay, I pay, my lead carpenter, I pay him $25 an hour, and I'm gonna mark it up to $50 an hour, and we'll call it good. Well, you've got to figure in all of these things you see here, from his payroll taxes, work comp, health insurance, any retirement benefits, any type of expenses that employee will incur for your company. Everything from his uniforms, his company apparel, to a cell phone, if he's got a truck, company truck, any small tools or anything, and bonuses, there's travel and meals and entertainment. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Expenses that employee is basically going to burden your company with. And beyond the actual expenses, something that almost all contractors, not all, but a majority of the ones that I talk to don't take into consideration that, when you look at a 52-week year, 40 hours a week, that's 2,080 hours. And, obviously we all know we don't, I know I get that in by about July 5th, so, but that's just because I'm a workaholic, as my wife says, but the 40 hours,
Hey, Wyatt.
weeks, yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Can you zoom in on that chart a little bit? It's a little bit small with all the numbers. Just
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can. Let me try, but oh, look at that. I can. Let's see if I can move it over here. So yeah, and this.
Yeah, that'll help. Thanks.
So this, if anybody's interested, this is, I've got a workbook that that you'll see a little bit more of here, and that has all of this stuff built into it, and it's got some examples. And because I'm a firm believer, in when doing this kind of stuff, that me personally, when I engage in a new process or software or something, I don't usually, I don't enjoy just getting a blank slate. I'd rather have an example laid out for me to look at something and compare it to and get a better understanding. And then if I need to adjust, change, or revise, then that's usually the route that works the best for me. So I'm assuming we're probably not all too different considering my background, but this is just a section of that labor burden calculator, and I'm sure Karen's got some other methods too, that she can utilize within QuickBooks that are far more accurate, because it's probably actual cost. So again, to finish kind of touching base on this, because this is a topic that we could literally spend all day on, but besides the actual dollar expenses that employee incurs for your company, you're not going to get 2,080 hours out of them. You're going to have vacation time, sick time, paid time off, holidays, paid holidays, training and education, non-productive time, which is basically they're clocked in, but they're not really doing much, whether they're driving or whatever it is they're doing, they're not producing labor, and or billable hours, and there's just a whole laundry list, and that bottom one, the timekeeping and miscellaneous company meetings, that's a total of, every week over the course of the year, it adds up. And a little story real quick, not to take too much time, but at the peak of my design build company, I had 21 employees. And at one point, I don't think it was when I had 21 employees, but I think I had 15 employees at the time, if I remember correctly. And every 2 weeks, payroll would come up, and I had an office manager and I had an office assistant, and then myself was the 3 people in the office, and then I had multiple crews. And come the day that all time cards were due, I would have well, not 15, but I'd have the other 12 or 11 or 12 employees sitting in the conference room, out in the shop, basically cheating off of one another like you would for a test, filling out time cards and what did you do and what did we do that day, for 2 weeks, and on and on and on. And what it came down to for me was implementing a system. I basically spent almost $4,000 on a software system for a time clock, basically, and it literally paid for itself in short order. But not only that, it started to help me establish a more accurate labor burden, because I was paying for all these hours that didn't actually get anything done, and they weren't on the job site. And then now I had a system that forced people to punch in on site and so on and so forth, and do codes for specific jobs or tasks or activities, and it really changed everything. And this was over 9 years ago, and the technology that's available today is quite a bit better. Very similar, but quite a bit better. So I highly recommend looking into some of these tools. The tool that I was using was JobClock, and I have no affiliation with them, but I do think they're a great tool. Now they have a feature called I forget what it is, but it's on the smartphone. But Buildertrend, actually, one of our other software companies that we work with, has a built-in feature, called Time Clock, and that ties right into, once you've got your labor burden established, now you know how to actually bid. And I can go into a little bit of detail here about, if you just go through this and you think about, if you pay an employee $25 an hour, you've got approximately 2.7% in unemployment insurance, and you can see that there's the different fees there. with the percentages that add up, there's workers' comp, there's health insurance, retirement benefits, and cell phone, all the things that I listed through earlier, all of those costs for this employee add up to $25,504. And that's you add that to his hourly wage based on an annual wage, it's almost $80,000. So what you think you're paying 52, it's actually costing you over $77,000. And then you take, that's with all the extra hours taken into account, because your actual production hours are just under 1,800, not 2,000, not 20,000, 2,080. So you really have to consider that when you're bidding things. So I'm gonna move on through this a little bit, but the next thing you're gonna see is this is another screenshot of the other parts of the labor burden tool that I use. There's quite a bit that goes into it, and you can, some of the things that are necessary is just figuring out what your individual employee labor burdens are, but beyond that, you can actually calculate what your full company-wide labor burden is with all employees, and and then I even take it deeper, and I do what I call crew composition, and that when you've got a foreman or a lead carpenter, a carpenter's apprentice, and a couple laborers on the job site, what. When you compile all their wages and their labor burden, their burden labor, exactly what that crew's costing you on an hourly, daily, weekly basis, and it's helpful. And when you're doing project management and even estimating, when what that the scope of the crew that's going to be out there. But these screenshots are just a quick insight. The tool that I have that works very well is built for companies up to 25 employees. If you have more than 25 employees, there's lots of other methods, but you should probably be using something that's a little bit more in depth than this spreadsheet. Not that this doesn't work as inadequate, but you don't need to be using these type of tools. So moving on from labor burden, the next and most important thing is overhead. And again, I have this conversation pretty much on a regular basis with clients, and they go back and forth. They're really not sure what is an overhead expense and what is, what do I bill to the job? And the long and short of that is any expense that you can bill directly to the job, that's a job cost. And anything such as supervision or, this is ongoing marketing and design and sales commissions and things like that. Sometimes you can bill a sales commission directly to the job if it's a set fee that's coming off that job. And so it kind of goes back and forth. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just what works for you and what, depending on how you're doing it. So there's a whole laundry list of things, from the tools and equipment, computers, your office supplies, your owner's salary, your office staff salary, your office rent and utilities, computers, ongoing. There's dues and subscriptions that we can go into great detail, but this is really where you need to know what you're spending, what your expenses are, and if you're not tracking something, these things, I'm assuming you're balancing your checkbook, but if you're not using QuickBooks, then you need to find a way and maybe use a spreadsheet such as this to do this, because you really do need to know your numbers. So, Karen, why don't you maybe elaborate on a little bit, if you can, how easily this is done inside of QuickBooks?
Super easy. So the idea is to work smarter, not harder, and that's just kind of something we always try to go by. So and I use this with Wyatt and clients all the time. You can't manage what you can't measure. So you cannot understand where you're going or what you have going on, you know, if you don't have all the pieces together. And understanding your financials, which is literally running your whole business. So there's running your business plus running all your job costing on top of that. And together, there's tools that are out there that allow you to kind of make that a happy marriage and a good workflow that's easy and simple and allows you to kind of focus on, you know, where you're strong, making more money, getting new clients, you know, so on and so forth. Using something like QuickBooks, I mean, I work in it all the time. Most clients find it very, you know, easy to work through. Always remember that there's help out there. To either if it's a matter of getting you set up or showing you how to enter that information, but there's so many systems in place within QuickBooks Online, for example, that just bring in a lot of information automatically, and you might just have to tell it where to go. If you don't, I wouldn't even suggest even using a spreadsheet. I would say get right onto QuickBooks, at least as your base. And then on top of that, you can build with other applications and have kind of a nice, you know, pool of applications that just really integrate and work well together. So I think if you're not doing it, that's the first problem. You really need to get in, and then a lot of times we have clients, they, you know, might be using a spreadsheet or they're kind of winging it as they're going along. Once we kind of get them set up and get their QuickBooks going, their numbers actually come out and they're like, wow, I didn't even know I made that much money, or oh, I thought I made more money than that, and wow, I didn't realize I was spending so much over here. It's crazy what you think you know in your head, and then when you actually see it down, you know, on paper, it could be completely different.
It gets to be a lot to track, and we're all small business owners. We're all pretty sharp, but when there's so many numbers, and in our industry, we have so many things to keep a handle on. You know, and you Karen, tell me, my experience with clients is that usually they're not doing it because they don't have a process or a system to do. When I say doing it, meaning job costing and, you know, tracking this type of stuff, so they do and can know their numbers, but they're not doing it because they don't have a way of doing it, and the way they do or can do it is so cumbersome and time consuming that they just don't do it.
Right. I think a lot of the time too, in addition to that, it's just extremely overwhelming. You know, and I'm a business owner myself. I'm pulled in 30 different directions, and this is typically not the most favorite part for most business owners. Like, they want to be out there either growing the business, being out in the field, getting more customers, you know, whatever that may look like. The idea is to recognize that this is extremely important, and if you have the right tools in place, it's not going to be overwhelming. You know, being more educated in what you should be looking at, or how you should be tracking this, or, you know, how this should, you know, kind of works in the workflow. It's not really that hard, you know. It's just being open and willing to recognize that, hey, I do need to put a system in place, and I need to get the help, and the help is out there. And I think it removes stress off the shoulders a little bit to be like, wow, okay, well, I know that you know, if you're making 10%, I mean, you're in your mind, you think, oh, I'm making this much on a job. I mean, how do you really know that? And you might be losing money and have no idea. And who wants to go through the everyday stress of running a business and doing all this work and then doing it all for nothing, right?
You know, and a lot of my clients, I would say a majority of my clients, they fall on the side of they're not charging enough, or they're not marking things up enough because they don't know to. And I should record things, because I hear the same thing just said a little bit different each time. And the one thing that makes me cringe is when I ask some of those questions about, you know, P&L or profit margins or markup or overhead or expenses, these type of things. I get this question way too often. And it's, you know, we figure it out at the end of the year when we do our taxes. Whatever's left over, that's what we made. That's what our profit is. We'll say, oh my.
Well,
that's too late.
Well, and you know, I mean, when my mom used to always tell me, it's not what you make, but it's what you spend, right? So sometimes that might not be the problem. I mean, it seems like the easy answer, but you're like, wow, you know, we're really, you know, hey, we're spending, like you said, in your example of labor, you know, I mean, there's, you know, a couple guys kind of hanging out, there's an hour unproductive time and another hour here, or maybe a half hour there, or maybe whatever it may be, when you're looking at all of that, you're like, oh wow, we could really improve in these areas, whatever those areas are, but because you're tracking and measuring that, and then you'll find that you can actually make more money by just looking at what you're currently doing. And it's not, marking up. Yeah, okay, in certain situations that might be, but if you're trying to be competitive, that might not be the answer. So it's kind of take a step back, and look at what you've got going on.
And that's literally like the other side of that what I just mentioned was there are clients that actually, once they do get their numbers down and they know where they're at, they can actually reduce pricing in some cases and become more competitive and get more jobs.
Well, and it gives you, like, I don't know, I just think you have like kind of the power in your pocket. If you're saying, hey, I want to mark this up 20%, this job, and I know that this is really my cost, and I feel good that I've evaluated what all my costs are because I've taken in overhead, I've taken in labor burden, and say there's a negotiating opportunity there. I mean, at least you can say, hey, I'm comfortable with going to 18% with the whatever that looks like, but there's just power and knowledge, really. So
it is, and it's interesting that I've been using that saying, and I think it's actually here in one of the slides that's coming up. You can't manage what you can't measure.
Yep.
And I mean, just about in everything that we do in our businesses now that I basically take a systems approach to just about everything I do. There's metrics and analytics and processes for tracking things, and it's once you find out what works and what works best, it's just rinse and repeat. And if you can get away from doing things that aren't as profitable. So if you're not tracking it, it's kind of flying by the seat of your pants. And I did that for many years, so it's.
And I just got to throw this out there. I mean, I know you're going to get into talking about technology, but when you're talking about benchmarking, I mean, if you would be able to say, hey, this is what companies like me are doing in every single line item of my financials, wouldn't you feel like, wow, like, why am I lower? Or, hey, great, I'm higher. Or, I mean, if you just did that, okay, I mean, right there, you're like one step ahead. And there is a handful of applications that will say integrate with QuickBooks and make that part of the family, and it'll automatically move those numbers and against benchmark. I mean, in your industry, there's like, you don't have to do anything. Like, it just automatically does it every day. So okay, it doesn't take any more work. You get more knowledge. Mm-hmm. Great. I mean.
Well, yeah, it's nice to know, and I know that just working with some clients, it's nice for them to just be able to literally just bounce something off another professional in the industry, because we're all out there doing it, but there's no like, read this book, take this course, get this degree, now you know how to run your construction company. It doesn't work like that. We're all kind of figuring out as we go. So this little screenshot of what you're seeing here, Karen, is an actual pretty built out, and I'm not trying to sell this to anybody because it's just a spreadsheet, but this tool is all built out, and I could probably jump into it during Q&A and show you. You can actually calculate I have it set up to go from 250,000, $500,000, $1 million, $1 million and a half, 3 million, 5 million, 7.5, and 10 million. So all those sizes, and then I have the industry like benchmarks for how much you would spend on marketing, how much you'd spend on office expenses. And again, they're just benchmarks. They may be right, they may be wrong for you, but they're averages based on your peers and your competitors as well. So it is nice to have something like that to compare it to. And I'd be interested to see go into that, what you're talking about, a little more deeper on another call some other time. But it all starts.
Gives you a nice base, right? Yeah. It gives you a base, so at least you can say, okay, well, this is what is typical, and this is where my numbers fall. But if you don't know where your numbers are, I mean, there's another problem, right? Which is the whole idea with this, what we're talking about. So.
Yeah, and this is a very like 30,000-foot view of all of this stuff, and we're hoping to spur some interest and go a little deeper on some future calls as well, or reach out to us, and we're happy to work with you guys on these things. But what you're looking at here, is a little tool spreadsheet with some benchmarks. Karen's got some other methods of doing it. Obviously, if it was up to me, I'd be working with Karen because I know the numbers. If you're not ready to do that, you can resort back to a spreadsheet, which is still pretty nice, better than nothing. So before we move on past this, the understanding what your overhead expenses are, that's what we're discussing now, but that's how you calculate your markup, is you're knowing your labor burden, and then as this is start, so now you know what to charge for your hourly wage and your billable hours, but then knowing what your expenses are, and then projecting out what your I'm drawing a blank here, what your annual sales projections are, and then that's how you do your markup. You figure that out. Okay, I did $500,000 last year. I'm on pace to do $750,000 this year. If that's the case, these are my overhead expenses. I need to mark this up. Everything needs to be marked up 60% so I can pay myself and make a 10% net profit when it's all said and done. And then if that's the case and you did it accurately, as long as you make those sales goals or reach those sales goals and your overhead expenses don't change, it should be there as long as the jobs were built out in a profitable manner. So it's obviously there's no guarantees, but that's the idea. Like Karen was saying, setting things out, putting these benchmarks out, having goals, making a plan. What's that saying, Karen? Have a plan, work the plan. Something, I forget what it is, but that's where it all starts. So you got to kind of dig in and know the numbers, and Karen will work with you to do a lot of that, and get you up to speed, right out of the gate with QuickBooks very, very easily.
Yeah, and if you have a business, I mean, I'm obviously very upfront, but you should be on something. You should be at the minimum QuickBooks, and the pricing to have something like that is minimal. I think having Excel spreadsheets, like Wyatt says, it does the job, but you could be more efficient in that process by utilizing QuickBooks. And we just want to help because we want you to make more money. I mean, people are not in business because the sky is blue. I mean, let's be real, and if we could either train you or show you or participate in that process, whatever that looks like, I mean, you should be on something, So.
Mm-hmm. It's very inexpensive, and we can get more information on that. But moving on, just to try to close this out. So only halfway through FI. So I'll just touch on this really quick. So I have created over the years, I've utilized, I don't even know how many different estimating systems and platforms and databases and tools and spreadsheets and on and on and on and on, And in my experience, they all have their good points, but they all fall short in one way or another. And so over time, I've basically kind of came up with a structure and a format that really makes sense to me, which, my background is I'm a hammer swinger from way back. I used to, started in this industry when I was old enough to walk, and I've been doing it for, pushing 28 years now. And what you're seeing there is basically it's my database. Those are phases, calendar phases. There's 30 calendar phases, but those are actually the same as my cost code categories. And then from there, but look at that, it's sequential. Okay, it's what do you start? What's the first thing you're going to do on a project? Well, if you're a design build firm, it's obviously going to be design and planning, and then from there, once that's done, you go into, you got to get it permitted, and then there's general requirements and admin, and then you go into the excavation and on and on. And I'm going to show you a little bit more going forward, but having a good system and a process and a way to do things, it all starts there, and then you build upon that, and what you do gets easier, and it all just makes sense. And for me, I built this out of necessity, but I built it. I'm not a software engineer. I'm not even really that sharp, but I know what I need to do. And when I sit down and do an estimate, what do? I don't start with a roof and then go to the windows and then go to flooring. I think, okay, I gotta I got to dig it out, and I got to put some footings in, and then I got to do this, and I got to basically how it's going to get built. That's how I estimate. I'm assuming a lot of you guys do the same. But having a database and cost code categories and all those things that all make sense in the same format, it's pretty nice. It works pretty seamlessly. So moving on, this is again just a quick screenshot, which I think I got one that we can zoom in here. But those 30 phases, there they are, kind of laid out in a calendar. And this is a nice tool that's built in within Buildertrend, to where what I love about the tools that I use, Clear Estimates and Buildertrend and QuickBooks, is my cost codes go all the way through, my job tracking, my estimating, everything. But right here, everything that I estimate in Clear Estimates pulls right into Buildertrend, and now I've got my project schedule and beyond. So this is just a quick little view. So I think I'll show you kind of a little zoomed in version of that. You zoom in, what was I just talking about? You go from, if it's a remodel, you go from demolition to framing. You get the framing done. You start the roofing and gutters, do the windows and doors, siding, masonry, get it closed in, and now you do exterior finishes and colors. And now you start plumbing, start the utilities rough in, and then go on from there. This just makes sense, but this is, again, just kind of a higher view. And I build all of that into Clear Estimates, and it just really, really works because it makes sense. And Clear Estimates is a phenomenal tool right out of the box. I just do a little bit of customization, not really changing a whole lot, and it makes it that much easier. And there is cost codes and everything in the database, and it's just fine the way it is. I have many clients that use it the way it is. I just manipulate it a little bit to where it makes sense for me, and I can go into more detail about that. So some of the cost codes that are in there, or most of the cost codes, are a labor and material, which is great because it's a fully built out part. Provide and install, so many square foot of 12 by 12 tile, and it includes the labor, the tile, the thin set, the underlayment, and it's kind of all inclusive. So it's very nice and very easy to use. And so what I do is I take it a step further and I break apart that part into a labor part and a material part. And the reason being is because now when you go to the project and you start doing the project and you're using hours and buying materials, and now you can track all of that. You can just take a receipt or purchase order from your supplier and just add it right into your budget, and the cost code for that ties right into the cost code of the estimate. And now you spent $500 on tile, or you estimated $500, and you got the quote back and the bill from your flooring supply, and it came in at $485. You're good to go. You came in under budget. And you bid out 15 hours to do that tile job. You're tracking your time with the time clock feature right in Buildertrend. A time clock tag is also tracks against a cost code, and it's just seamless. Karen was talking about some of this stuff. Once you build a system, it becomes easy to do, and it actually just becomes natural. And the thing about it for me is it's actually easier to do it this way than it is, to not do it, in my opinion, because if you're not doing it, you're just going to pay for it later by having to do a whole lot of work on the back end or once the project's done. And I can't tell you how many times I meet with clients and we discuss their numbers, and we start going into the labor burden and all of the things to figure out where they're at, and they're doing it, and they're doing a really good job of tracking their job costs, but it's very, very manual. They have to go through all the paper time cards and review read what they were doing and look at what they did that day, what job they're on, and then basically decipher that information, put it into a spreadsheet, and hope that it's right and that you didn't make an error and put a decimal in the wrong place, or in my case, fat finger the keyboard and add a 0 or something. And there's just so many ways that it can go wrong. You can't ever take the human error out of this process, but having a system where when you go in and you use templates and assemblies and all of the power and all the different parts in the database in Clear Estimates, the power of that is, and I've done previous webinars where, people watch me do a full house remodel in, less than an hour, well, probably a half hour. So the power of these tools is so worth the value. Again, I don't know if I say this every time, but Jack, don't take this to heart either, but I'd pay 10 times what the fees are for Clear Estimates just because of the power there. So the other thing, and I'm not going to really get into this because we're running out of time here, but work with your trade partners, work with your subs and vendors, and get pricing from them. And when I say unit pricing, I mean that's the type of system Clear Estimates is. But instead of just getting a lump sum bid from your sub, have him give you a unit price. Well, I charge this much per square foot for this, or this much per opening for fixtures, for electrical fixtures, or however. Get some type of unit pricing so then his numbers to where you can bid it ahead of time and not have to wait to get a proposal back from him or a quote. And then you can move it to the, I'm assuming your subs will appreciate the fact that he doesn't have to pump out an estimate for every single project as well. Once you get it down, you get a streamlined process. It saves everybody time and it moves you to contract quicker. So talking about the database again, here's a quick example. This is a little screenshot right out of the Clear Estimates database, the RemodelMax database within Clear Estimates. And you can see I've got underneath the category here, I've got the floor framing code is a little different. This is 7100, and it's got the different parts that are same as the original database. But what you can do now, or you can do it with the existing database, but now all of these codes, these cost codes, and from the RemodelMax database tie along with the cost codes in Buildertrend for the budget and selections and time clock tags and so on. And now you're doing job costing, pretty seamlessly. I mean, it still does take effort, and you still got to do some entry, some data entry, but it's all in one place and it's all tied to the job, the customer's job. So you don't have to go hunting around for notebooks that are buried on the bottom, the floor of your truck, or spreadsheets, or emails, or receipts, or I mean, trust me, I've been there, and it's frustrating when you can't find something. So moving on a little bit, here again is that the 30 phases of the database, and that's really where it all starts. And there it is, Karen. So you can't manage what you can't measure. So by doing that, by putting systems in place where you can, analyze, and measure those things and track, now you can start to control what happens. That's where the management, and you can be proactive about what's happening with your business. And the thing about it is, then it's your business. You get to build it the way you want to. If you know what's going on, you can steer the ship in whichever direction you want to go, instead of just letting the wheel go. So here's another little screenshot, again, just kind of giving you a quick snapshot of, framing cost codes. You can see there's on the left side here, there's the phase name, and then there's the cost code category, and then there's the cost code group, and then there's the actual cost code title. And I break it out into labor, material, subcontractor, other, and then I also have codes for allowance, labor allowance, material allowance, and subcontractor allowance. And we all know that when we're bidding jobs, it's pretty much very seldom that we have every single detail figured out ahead of time. So having an allowance cost code to add an allowance, let's say of $5,000 for cabinets, and now the client can go out and purchase cabinets against that allowance, and let's say they come back and they've purchased $5,500 worth of cabinets. Well, they went over that allowance, and now you're going to bill them, a change order for that extra item, or vice versa if they come in under. But you have a specific cost code to track that, and it just makes the process very seamless and easy to track, and so on. So here's a quick look. On the left, you're seeing a screenshot of Clear Estimates database, or Clear Estimates estimate, and which is utilizing the database with the cost codes. with some framing, and on the right side is the estimate and budget once it's imported into Buildertrend. And if you look there, you'll see that there's 730 the quantity on the left, the 730 quantity on the right, and then the 21.2 hours. It's separated. The hours are separated, the materials are separated, and now for the iJoist system, and now you can track the hours that it takes you to install that, as well as the materials that you're going to be required to purchase to build that. So, separating those two out makes it's just one more step that you don't have to do manually. So it just makes it that much easier to do. And this, again, we can go another time, or if anybody's interested, just reach out to me and I can give you a more in-depth preview, because I know this is probably pretty small as well. So kind of closing out here, the talking, we've kind of touched on it all the way through. Clear estimates, is really where it all starts. And for me, that's where I do all my estimating. I build templates and build my estimates and my whole process, and then I move projects from Clear Estimates into Buildertrend and do my project management and my time clock. Employees are clocking in and out, messaging the system. I mean, the complete power of Buildertrend is we could spend a whole afternoon talking about the features and the power of that. And then Buildertrend, is fully integrated with QuickBooks. So it's front to back. Everything you need right there in those tools. And, I mean, there's some other things that I use from a marketing and sales standpoint, but these three tools right here are the core of not only my business but all my clients, and it's very powerful. And then with those three tools, going back to that slide where you saw all the hats. You're wearing all the hats, being pulled in all the directions. The real I don't know. I read a lot of books, and I guess I've adapted the policy and kind of a methodology of hiring the professionals to help. And I'm a consultant, and I still hire consultants when there's something that it's not my expertise. Yeah, I could take the time and go out and learn it, but the time that I do that, I'm taking away from how I make money and what I do best. So that's where Karen comes in for me. I don't want to get into it. Karen does what she does, and she does it very well. Buildertrend, Clear Estimates, those tools, QuickBooks, those tools are very powerful. But there is sometimes a learning curve, and if you can work with Jack, with the training and the video tutorials to get up to speed. If you need any other additional help, feel free to reach out to us. If you're wanting to get a fully integrated system, both Karen and I can work with you to help make that happen.
Well, and if I could just kind of add to that, just recognize that if you don't have these systems in place, which might right now seem overwhelming, but it's not. I can tell you that you are doing more work automatically. If you integrate these systems, you will be doing less work. You're going to be way more efficient. It's going to be a lot simpler. You'll be more educated about where you're sitting. But you have to be open to it. You have to be willing to try it. And, try it for 30 days. A lot of these places, they have free trial periods. So just put one job in there, right, Wyatt? I mean,
well, there is a benefit to that. I think QuickBooks, I know Clear Estimates has a free trial. I know Buildertrend, they don't have a free trial, but they do have a 30-day guarantee. And, that's fine. But if you're not going to take the time to actually learn it and understand it, don't waste your time, I guess. So when you're ready and when you're committed, my advice is to really just embrace it and go. And I'm not trying to sell myself. I'm more trying to get people on board with this process and the system. But where I provide value to clients is I know and understand these tools, and I take out the learning curve for you and help build your system out, and then train you on how to do it inside of your tool, inside of your system, on your projects. And I call it, you're going to learn by doing while we're getting work done. So we will actually do an estimate in Clear Estimates. We will for a project that you're working on. we will actually run a project through the Buildertrend, the project management tool. You'll see that run through to QuickBooks, and how it integrates there. You'll see it all happening as it's happening. And then the reason that becomes so powerful is because more often than not, people sign up for this stuff and then they don't ever get around to it, or they run into an issue where they don't know how to do something and they got to get something done right now. Guess what? They go back to they resort to their old methods. And Karen, you hit the nail right on the head that there is a little bit of a learning curve. There is a little bit of onboarding and all of that. That initial investment of time, but the payoff is I don't know.
Huge.
If I could get this type of return in Vegas, not that I'm a gambler, but it's just a good way to relate to it. It's so powerful, and I've never been a gambler, never been somebody that does that. But I tell you what, I gamble with everything I do with my business. When I spend money on this, when I go spend time on that, I'm taking a risk and making it work. It's either it does or it doesn't. So this is stuff that I've embraced. These tools, working with Clear Estimates and Jack. I've never been more excited about an estimating program, and I've been working with him for a few years now, and they just keep getting better and better. There's a couple features that they just implemented here shortly, and it's all the time it just gets better and better. So same with QuickBooks, same with Buildertrend. Working with professionals such as Karen and I, you get the best of all of it, and you get it done quickly. So kind of the last thing to close it out before we do Q&A here, this is who we are. If there's anything we can do to help, I never did get your email up there. Sorry, Karen.
Oh, Wyatt, I'm so mad. No, I did put it in the chat earlier.
Yeah. Just so everybody knows, in case they're listening, it's just Karen Woodman or just Karen W. I forget.
Well, I have info at 24hourbookkeeper. K Woodman is my email.
That's easy enough. So info at 24hourbookkeeper.com, correct?
Yep. And
you can reach me. You can see mine on the bottom there. It's just Wyatt K at TBSA LLC. Feel free to reach out to us if you're looking for any help with something right within Clear Estimates. Jack is available. He can point you in the right direction for tutorials. If you're wanting some more in-depth help, let us know. We're here to help, and your success is our success. So. With that being said, unless you have anything to add, Karen, we can, I guess, open it up to questions.
Yeah, let's do that.
You still there, Jack?
He might be. He said he might be having some computer issues, so.
Oh shoot! I gotta change screens here.
Yeah. So I'll just mention that I know there's been a couple questions about integration, and it seems that with Clear Estimates and Buildertrend and QuickBooks, you can export everything to Excel. So once you do that, then you can get that data into whatever application you'd like it to integrate with. And if I could just add, I guess, of talking about integration, sometimes you might call Buildertrend or Clear Estimates, and you want to use all these tools, and they will always obviously do their best to help you, but somebody like Wyatt and myself can also help say, okay, hey, this is how you would make it talk to each other. So don't be discouraged.
Yeah. The stuff that is a roadblock for most people is where we shine. That's where we come in. We're like, oh, let's do that for you. It's just this, and we just solve those issues because we use the tools every day, and we're familiar with them. And it's the way I look at this is, it's a good time to be in the industry. I keep saying that, and because I've been in my lifetime, I've been through 2 recessions, and the last one, the whole 2008 financial crisis, meltdown, whatever you want to call it, housing crash, was not very pleasant. And so I'm pretty excited. It's a good time to be in the industry, and people are busy. And in fact, one of the biggest complaints that I hear is the lack of the labor force. Can't find good help. Not that that's not an issue, but that's a good problem to have, because there's strategies out there that you can. adapt. So, working with, so the whole time issue, working with a professional, partnering, and that's the way Karen and I look at this. We are partnering with you because the more we can help you, the more, the better you're going to do, and ultimately that's a win for us. So
there's a question there about having a copy of the PowerPoint presentation.
yes, this does go. You'll get a link. I'll make sure I get that to Jack before he sends the email out, and you can view it as often as you'd like. So, and then if anybody does want, because I know the slides do get, I use a pretty good sized monitor, but the slide, some of the text gets pretty small. If anybody wants to get more information on job costing, cost codes, the database, I mean any of this stuff, just I offer a free 30-minute session, and I believe I pasted that into the chat window as well, but that'll also go out. Both Karen and I's contact information will go out in the email, and just let us know. I'm here to help. The 30 minutes I give it to you guys, and you can. We can use that time however you want. If you want to, knock out an estimate, clear estimates, great. If you want to, kind of demo a more in-depth demonstration of a Buildertrend, or if it comes to QuickBooks, I'm probably going to either pass you to Karen or bring her on board with the call if we're maybe demoing both Buildertrend and QuickBooks or something. But we can help you, see the value in it, even before you spend the money on it or the time. So that I do for free, because I know that once you see it, you're going to have a hard time doing anything else going forward. So,
cool.
Anything to add, Karen?
No, I just I live in QuickBooks, so I would be obviously of much assistance with that and getting you set up and understanding what it should look like, because just like in this industry, foundation is extremely important. You could be doing the right function moving forward in QuickBooks, but if you're not set up correctly, you're kind of doing it's just going to the wrong place. So we would do all of that, and then the integration with other third-party applications. We also do a lot of help, with.
So Brian had a question, said, he's using Clear Estimates in QuickBooks Online, and he wants to know how, how he can import his estimates and invoices from Clear Estimates into QuickBooks with double entries. And there is a new feature that is going to allow you to actually send customer information in there, but the whole estimate, no, there isn't an integration that can do that. But you can, with a couple clicks to the mouse, you can export that estimate and then either import it with all the part codes and everything right into QuickBooks, or copy and paste it right into a invoice estimate inside of QuickBooks. Now, the workaround for that is Excel, but there's a better solution, and that's Buildertrend. So I'm not sure, Brian, what you do, or if you would have the need for a project management tool. And again, I don't get paid for you to go sign up for Buildertrend. It's just a really good tool, just like I promote Clear Estimates just because I use it and I love it. But QuickBooks, Buildertrend has a complete sync, a full integration with QuickBooks. So your payments and other information that need to be in your financial tools such as QuickBooks are fully integrated. But as far as the estimates and stuff, you don't need any of that data in QuickBooks if you're using a tool such as Buildertrend. And Karen, maybe you can touch on that a little bit more, because you understand, what comes into QuickBooks from Buildertrend. But the power of job costing and kind of most of the stuff that we're talking about today, Clear Estimates and Buildertrend do all of that for you. And then when it comes time to the financial side of things, Buildertrend is integrated with QuickBooks Online, and that it sends all payments and income in there automatically once you get
and expenses. So and obviously, expenses. Working smarter, not harder. If we could avoid double data entry, unless anybody loves doing that, you would want to integrate the two together, and it'll do that. What you'll do something in Buildertrend. Record your customer payment, or you've approved a payment to one of your subs. you'll have to just do that in Buildertrend, and it'll automatically sync over to QuickBooks. And the idea behind it is anything construction related. A lot of times companies, they might have project managers or certain people that they don't really want them touching QuickBooks, but they need to be participating in the job costing process. So using Buildertrend and QuickBooks Online, for example, will give you a nice division of roles or permission levels, in that they can do all of that approval process in Buildertrend, and it'll move it over to the bookkeeping side, and QuickBooks will become your full picture of your company financials.
So I saw another question from Brian here. I'm just scrolling through the chat. He says he's manually putting information from ClearEstimates into Buildertrend. So if I can here, I'll try to give you a quick snapshot here. So here is, see if I'm in the right project here. Hopefully it doesn't kick me out. So here's a project. This is an actual project, a client of mine. You can see the whole project right here is all of the different components that are built out. It's a $200,000 Master Suite edition. Okay. So if Brian's watching this,
you had the wrong screen up, I think.
Oh really? Let me double check that. Give me 1 second here. I'll just have to redo that real quick. And there it is. Should be this one. How about now?
ClearEstimates, there you are.
Yep. That should be it. Let me double check that that's still seeing it.
Yep.
Okay, so right from within ClearEstimates, you can create a report, which is either a preliminary or a formal contract or subcontract. But what is easy is right here under the preview table, you can actually export this entire estimate right into Excel, and then with a little bit of formatting, not much, you can import it right into into Buildertrend with a couple clicks. And I mean, that tool's right there. I mean, here's everything that's in ClearEstimates is right in here. Again, this is done in my methods because I've segmented the database and changed things around a little bit to make this work. But with a little bit of effort, building your systems, now it's literally a couple clicks. Like I export it out of ClearEstimates. I have a tool like a worksheet and that basically reformats it, pulls the data from the ClearEstimates export into a template, a Buildertrend import template format, and then I literally just go to Buildertrend and go import in the leads tool right into import estimate, and then there's a few more clicks that I got to do. Sometimes the mapping of the columns, such as the quantity or the unit pricing or the notes, the description. Sometimes some of those don't come up, and if you don't have the same cost codes in Buildertrend that come from ClearEstimates, you might have to do a little bit of mapping on those. You'll either have to create new ones or tell not imported or whatever the case. But it's literally that seamless to do. And it's not fully integrated, but I'll tell you what, I can do that in a couple minutes, and you'd probably still be on maybe the second or third part, manually entering it. And then when I say you, I mean that's anybody that's going to do it, because I guess what, I did that for a long time, and I'm not really good on the keyboard, so I don't really enjoy typing. So anything I can do, that is copy and paste, or with this situation, it is literally just export, import, and then format. That's about it. So I think, where did I go in here? But then the project's in Buildertrend right from ClearEstimates, and it's very seamless. So Brian, if you're interested in a demo on how that happens, reach out to me, and I can show it to you live. Were you able to see all that, Karen?
Yes.
All right. I see Brian said he lost the screen, so hopefully that's...
he said he got it back, so...
that's good. So, yeah, well, shoot me. I shared that meeting link. Shoot me a message and schedule a call, and we can do a quick 30-minute session, Brian, on that. And anybody else that's interested, it's pretty impressive. I know that much because if I'm as excited about it as I am, and I've been using it for how long now?
Yeah, Brian
It's
said he'll contact you.
yeah.
He's wondering, through Builder Trend how that comes in. So yeah, he said he'll contact you. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, Karen, if you want to, um, say anything else about QuickBooks or anything like that. I mean, for me, if anybody wants to know, I mean, as far as cost and pricing goes, Clear Estimates is $59 a month. And for me, that's a lot less than what I charge for the by the hour. And if I can use a tool that has templates, and I mean, that's right out of the box, Clear Estimates has a ton of templates and built into it and all the parts and database, and it's so easy to use that the amount of time that I save is, I mean, 1 month pays for the whole year as far as I'm concerned. And I mean, just think about if you're able to produce a professional, in-depth, accurate estimate, in short time, shorter time than it would take you in most other tools, and then get that project, close the deal because you've, been able to provide detailed specifications. Is it worth it? Well, I know it is, but you got to decide yourself. And then some of these other tools, Builder Trend can get a little bit pricier, but they have their unlimited plan, so at that point it's, I think it starts out at $99 a month and goes up to $399 a month for the unlimited plan, if I'm not mistaken. And to me, I mean, yeah, that adds up to a few dollars, over the course of the year. But just the professionalism of being able to manage a project like that for a client, you're increasing your customer's building experience.
Well, and you just have to figure that in your costs. I mean, $400 it's nothing, and that's for unlimited jobs. So you've got 10, 20 jobs running at the same time. I mean, that cost really becomes minimal per job if you kind of put it into, your operating overhead or whatever. I know, Wyatt, that we probably will be doing. Oh, we lost Wyatt. What do you know? So what I was going to say is I know that we have plans to get into some demoing and do more specific, workflows in some of these applications. So if you are interested in participating in that, kind of look out for that or reach out to us, find out when we're doing them. It's just all kind of in the works. Oh, Wyatt's back. There you are.
I hit the
just dropped off.
I hit the X again. I'm like, I don't know. That's 3 times I've done that now. I don't know what the heck. I just went to literally swap not screens, but go to a different tab, and I closed it out again.
Well, what I was just mentioning and saying to those that are left is that basically, we will probably be getting into doing more demo of applications and more specific workflows in Builder Trend, QuickBooks Online, Clear Estimates, all of that, which all those resources are out there, but maybe just to get a different perspective and have the opportunity to have that specific to exactly your particular workflow,
And it is nice. It's tough. Some of the webinars that I've done in the past are actually full demos, and this one was more of a slide deck, a presentation. But this, because we kind of wanted to cover, our goal was to cover, the more 30,000 foot view to kind of show you, start to finish, a different perspective looking at things. But we are going to be doing that for sure. Karen and I are working on that right now, where we're actually going to be demoing and presenting the use of those tools, from Clear Estimates to Builder Trend, QuickBooks Online, and just you'll actually be able to see those, watch it, and almost like a learning tutorial. But consider it a very in-depth free demo. But those things will be coming up, and we'll just look for information.
Well, it might answer some questions. I think. I mean, I know. We work with people all the time that just kind of maybe feel like they have just a really simple question, but it's important enough that the train just doesn't keep moving forward. Right. So maybe by participating in those, that'll answer. Maybe get like an aha moment, and then be able to continue working forward. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, with that being said, Karen, I think Jack, I don't know if he got cut off or not, but
I think he's still here with us.
Just appreciate you putting this together, Jack, and we'll look forward to doing another one later in July. and we've got a couple topics we're throwing around for the upcoming webinar. And if you guys, there's anything that anybody's looking for, we're always open to feedback. So feel free to reach out to Jack or myself or Karen and let us know what you're looking for. But we're here to provide value. So if there's anything you guys we can do to help, let us know. But thanks, Jack, for putting this together. And
Thanks.
Karen, really appreciate it. You're always a pleasure. Like I said, told everybody before, we could sit here and chat for hours.
Right. Yes. We get to talk about the things they're.
Yeah, we better cut it
Yeah,
short.
thank you. Thank you very much to Wyatt and Karen for putting this on and giving us some great info. I apologize if my audio is very choppy. I'm having some issues with my computer this morning. But thank you very much to everybody for joining. Please do be on the lookout in your email for Wyatt and Karen's contact information so you can follow up with questions to them, as well as a link to the recorded version of the webinar in case you want to view it again later.
And I'll make sure I get you the link for the slide deck because I know a couple people have asked for that as well. So sounds good. Well, thanks, Jack. Thank you, Karen. Talk to you guys soon.
Okay, thanks. Bye.